All right, it is Disclosure Day here on Mystery Wire. George, what do you say?
Overdue.
We do this. Yes, it is overdue. But looking forward to this episode. We're doing this episode on the Thursday before the release of Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day movie. So many of you will have seen it by now. But we had the opportunity, George, to go see it on Monday. And it was, we're going to do our best Siskel and Ebert here, movie reviewers.
Without doing spoilers,
Yes.
for people who are going to see it tomorrow and beyond.
But it was so we went and saw it there. I do want to welcome you to Mystery Wire. We've got Carlos Sampson and John Forrest here helping put together this show. And fascinating movie. The premise, obviously, of I'm sitting there next to you in the movie theater, and I'm thinking, okay, how many times have you? There's one of the main character, has information, wants to disclose it, and is being stopped at every step of the way. You've had to feel that at some times.
Oh, yes. And people that we've helped, going back to Bob Lazar, whether people believe Bob Lazar or not doesn't really matter, but he paid a price for coming forward with that information. So did we. He was followed and phones were tapped. There were break-ins in his house. Our phones here in KLAS were tapped. People who talked to us and offered information were visited and told to shut up. So I'm familiar with the challenges that face people who are whistleblowers and want to come forward. I think, we'll get into this a little bit more, but for disclosure to happen, my personal opinion is it will never voluntarily happen. It would have to be some kind of a demonstration by them, whoever they are, that's unmistakable, or it would have to be the kind of scenario that happens in this Disclosure Day movie where somebody absconds with a bunch of undeniable evidence and gets it out to the public.
Emily Blunt is going to be nominated, I'm sure, for an Oscar for her role.
She was great. Yeah, she's
in this.
Really good.
May win it. Again, we're doing the Siskel and Ebert stuff here a little bit. But here's Emily Blunt. She plays Margaret Fairchild, who is a newscaster, a meteorologist at a Kansas City TV station, and talks. There always has to be a TV station connection.
Should have been here.
Should have been here at Channel 8, not at Kansas. Should have been you and here at Channel 8. I get that. I do love the scene where she was having to race in with about 3 minutes to go. That's the nightmare we all have in the business.
It's a recurring nightmare. At least once a month I have that. Oh, my God, I get to the set. I'm late.
I'm late. I only have 3 minutes. I'm not ready. And so that happens to her on occasion. But anyway, here's she gives a great summation, I believe, of what this movie is all about in this trailer.
This film is such an original science fiction story about the idea of non-human life existing in other worlds and that we are not alone.
Good morning, Kansas City.
And Margaret is suddenly imbued with these abilities she's never had before.
Daniel Kellner.
Who is this?
Do not go back to the house. I don't know who you are, but they're gonna kill you.
Her and Daniel, they are the beholders of this world-changing secret.
It's the two of you. It's always been just the two of you.
Whatever happens,
Don't you let go.
And so they are being chased down by the highest form of shadowy government who are trying to stop them from revealing this truth to the world.
this is it. They're here.
These new, extraordinary gifts that have been bestowed upon them challenge the characters' values and their beliefs about what's possible.
3, 2, 1.
This is Disclosure Day.
Okay, overall, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. You know, I wanted to like it. I have to admit
Yes.
that going into it. I wanted to like it, A, because I'm a fan of Spielberg, especially on this topic. I mean, his movies in general are terrific. He's a master storyteller. But what he has done for UFOs, Alien, the familiarity of the global audience with these kind of themes and not to be too alarmed about it, I think it's remarkable. And it's important in how we've evolved and acclimated ourselves that maybe this is real. And I think, you know, obviously he had something in mind for this movie. And while many of the devices that are used to move the story along are unlikely, and it is sci-fi, it's a movie, it's not a documentary, it's not a PhD thesis, it's not a scientific report, it's a movie. And it was entertaining for me. And the end was powerful. I mean, I felt like a punch in the gut because, as people like us, we're always pushing for disclosure. We want transparency. And then when you see it on the screen, you realize, holy cow, that would be really something. And I know what I was left with at the end of it. And the ending is, I thought it was powerful. But what I'm thinking is, what happens the next day after it's out? How do people react? And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that.
No, that will be interesting to see. And Spielberg has a long list of movies in this genre. Let's go E.T., Close Encounters, War of the Worlds. If you're looking for this to be a fun, feel-good movie like E.T. and Close Encounters, It ain't that.
No. Close Encounters is the wonder of the whole thing, and it's miraculous, and it's so encouraging and hopeful. It's a whole different feel. This is dark and fast-paced. It's violent at times. It's a much different movie, but it's a much different topic. And no director, no movie director of his stature has ever taken on the topic of disclosure and the cover-up itself. The fact that there is a cover-up and it is real, and there are various ways that are portrayed in this movie, how moving it out of government into private hands is a way to have a buttress, a bulwark against disclosure, is true. It's really that way.
Yeah. And it is personal to Steven Spielberg, as he says in this interview.
I'm not a plant of the Pentagon or the government or any deep state contracting company. I'm literally a filmmaker that wanted to tell this story for many, many years. And but I had no idea that things were going to start to be disclosed, just as Disclosure Day was about to be disclosed. This started with my father taking me to see a meteor shower and introducing me to the sky at night when I was 5 years old. And I never stopped wondering about what's out there ever since. Humanity, empathy, believing in something we can't see, making the unknown more known to people, where people can be comfortable with what was once unknown.
Okay, more from him later. What does Spielberg know? I mean, people are giving him information. He used some real stories in this movie, and they were laced throughout it.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about the film. I mean, it's not just for UFO nuts like me. But there are a lot of Easter eggs in there that are specifically, the general public may not know, but which people who study this topic will know. The recreation of Roswell, and I'm saying that only because it's been in the trailers. I don't want to be a spoiler. Some of the other important cases and events, meetings between key people that I had to laugh at that it made it into this movie. But I've looked into that story, and people understand it after they see the film involving a president and a celebrity. And I think it's real. I think it really did happen. So there's a lot of great stuff. There's images that are created for the film, but they duplicate what has been reported to us in incidents and videos and documentary evidence that's never been released. So that part of it, Spielberg did his homework. The idea that he might be some kind of a spook, that he's signed on for the government to cooperate with getting this out slowly, is kind of a badge of honor in UFO world. Because if anyone who is in this long enough, you become accused of being a CIA plant or a spy. I know I've been a CIA plant.
So you are saying unequivocally you are not a CIA plant.
I am not a CIA plant. I don't work for the CIA or any government agency, but I've been accused of it a lot of time, along with actually being accused of being an alien myself and many other things. But I think Spielberg has been assumed to be in the know. That story's floated around UFO world for a very long time. But he's had access to some of the world's best experts. Hynek, Jacques Vallée were both consultants on Close Encounters. And since then, he's clearly continued to keep up on the topic. And I think for him personally, he's tired of the lies himself.
Okay, more on Disclosure Day when we return. All right, welcome back to the two greatest movie reviewers that you could ever hope to have. And we're not reviewing this movie, Disclosure Day, from a Siskel and Ebert point of view, more a content point of view of what happened during the movie. I thought some of the chase scenes, I'll put it this way, were over the top a little bit much. The alien scenes sometimes were more believable than some of the chase scenes. How's that for crazy?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a lot more of action kind of a thing. There were a lot of chases in this. It's not entirely unfounded, the idea that whistleblowers and witnesses who have information get hounded by the bad guys. What I really wanted to see from this is more info from the bad guys, the people who have kept these secrets, the keepers of the secrets who are very real right now. What are their reasons? What reasons do they have other than the possibility that some of them might go to prison for lying to the public and absconding with billions of dollars in funds, if it's true, from legitimate national security programs? I wanted to hear what their reasoning was, if there's one thing that I would like to have seen more. I know that I think Spielberg wants to expand the pool of humans who are interested in this topic. And I think the movie probably is going to do that. It'll be a hit around the world, and people who may not read UFO books or watch UFO documentaries will go see a popular film and wonder, hey, how much of that is real, and why don't I know? What is the reason for the cover-up?
No, and he talked on CBS Sunday Morning about more of his background, which I find fascinating, that he was his interest in this topic, certainly, and pushing it forward is a positive thing all the way around. And here's what he had to say on CBS Sunday Morning.
Think about this. When the great unknown is actually known by some, but not known by all of us, it's that inequity that got me to write the story for Disclosure Day.
Have aliens been here? And do you think they might still be here?
Based on the circumstantial evidence of everything that I've gathered throughout my whole life, everybody I've listened to, and every documentary I've ever watched, and all the testimonies in Congress that I've heard, I absolutely think that they have been here, and they are here, and who knows, maybe they've always been here.
Okay, if you're interested in the topic, you're going to go watch this movie. Number one, right?
Yeah.
Multiple. I want to see it a second time, and you mentioned that afterwards. I want to go see it again to sit down and absorb it a little bit more.
Yeah. There's one part, the disclosure of Disclosure Day, where it's hard to keep up with all the images that are there. I saw a couple of things that I thought were, as I said before, Easter eggs that Spielberg slipped in there, but also some things that are recreations of real events that have been reported and investigated. And I can't wait to slow it down and look at all that stuff again, because it's a lot of stuff to absorb.
There was a mashed potato mountain in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think,
okay, without the spoiler.
So.
It seemed to be that he the throwback to some of his earlier movies and what he's done. But it is his interest in this topic. Spielberg is walking the walk. Is that the best way to describe what he's doing right now, and getting a lot of people interested, period, in the topic?
I tried to avoid interviews and stories about the movie until we got to see it, and I didn't want to spoil it myself. But, he's clearly said that he wanted to take a stand on this, and I think he did. They're real. They're here. They've probably always been here. And, that we need to learn a lesson about empathy if we're ever going to have direct contact where they're going to reveal themselves in an unmistakable and undeniable way. And I know people don't want to have lectures about empathy or something, but, I've had friends of mine, well, we'll hear from one of them here in a bit, who think that, we don't act like the aliens do. We don't fly over their nuclear bases and mess with them. And, A, we don't know where they're from. B, we couldn't get there if we wanted to. But we've done a heck of a lot of stuff to UFOs over the years all around the world, sending planes to shoot them down, and people taking pot shots with their hunting rifles and things like that. And if they've been watching us for a long time, they know that we're not always a nice species, to ourselves or other species on this planet.
Yeah, empathy was part of the message, certainly. It was a big part of the movie. Tommy Martinez played Dave Santiago in the movie, a small role in the movie, but I liked what he had to say at the premiere, and so I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's go, Tommy Martinez.
It's a lot of information all at once, Disclosure Day, so I think this is a good way to plant the seed inside people's minds to potentially prepare for something like this in real life, and to not be afraid and to embrace it. Okay,
does it do that, do you think?
I think so, yeah. And, UFO aficionados, people who really are into the topic, I think they'll like the movie. I think a lot of them will say, gosh, I wish this was in there or that was in there, you know. If it had been a 10-hour movie, it still wouldn't cover the whole depth and breadth of the subject matter. But I hope that it broadens the pool of humans who are interested in the topic and fires up at least some of them to join the cause and say, hey, we'd like to know what's really going on here. I'll say this about alien movies. I watch all of them. You know, of course I do. They're not about aliens. They're always about humans, how we react to an invasion, a visitation, an abduction, an encounter, how humans handle that stuff. And it's always different. We don't really know for sure how people would handle something like total disclosure. But it's interesting to speculate about it, and I hope the day comes when we can find out for sure.
I've heard it said by Spielberg and people around him that this movie could shake your faith because of talking about the aliens. And I didn't see that in the movie. In fact, I thought I saw it because the Catholic Church is prominent throughout this movie. I'll just say that. And I thought it was faith promoting, quite frankly. I thought some of the things said were that. Maybe I looked at it from my point of view.
Well, in real life, that is one of the excuses that has been used to justify the cover-up is, this would destroy religion. We tackled that topic right from the get-go. When I started UFOs, the Best Evidence, 1989, went out and talked to faith leaders here in Las Vegas, how they would react, how their members would handle it. And every single one of them said the same thing. It's a greater testament to the glory of God. And we'd welcome it. Alien shekels in the collection plate. The faith that was most interested in it and most supportive of the idea was LDS. You know some of those folks.
Your Don Christensen interview, I'm looking back on that one, obviously Harry Reid.
Yeah.
And certainly...
No problem at all. Yeah. And I would hope that would be the way that religions would handle it. There are some fundamentalists in different faiths who probably would have some trouble with it. But the general population, I don't know. Again, depending on what it is, what the revelation is about who's here, where they're from, and what their intentions might be.
Okay, we did see the movie with a movie producer, TV show producer too, which was an interesting perspective. One of your friends. We're going to hear from him when we return to Mystery Wire. Okay, Disclosure Day is likely out by the time you see this, but we are doing it on the eve of its release. So, George, you've got one of your buddies went and saw the movie with us, he and his wife, Bryce Abel, to check it out. Tell us a background of Bryce.
Bryce is a multi-hyphenate, you'd say. He was an investigative reporter for CNN. He worked as a screenwriter in Hollywood on a number of really big projects. He produced and wrote a series called Dark Skies, which is about UFOs. He's co-written a couple of books about UFOs and after disclosure, what might happen. He worked with Steven Spielberg on a massive multi-part series, I think 10-part series called Taken that was aired some years ago, was really good. So he's been around these subjects a lot. He sees the movie maybe in a different way than we would because he and his wife are both screenwriters. And he's kind of gone back and forth about whether he liked it or not. And here's what he told us. We saw the movie Monday, and you were disappointed. Why?
Well, I looked at it from 2 points of view. You can always look at a film as a film and say, okay, I'm reviewing my film experience. But
does it work on that level as a movie?
Pretty much. Not perfectly. It's not his best film ever in the universe. I mean, you'd have to, it certainly doesn't beat Private Ryan or things like that. But it's a good film. It's good enough, I guess. But if you look at it as a disclosure film, which how can you not? It's called Disclosure Day. All of the promotions and marketing for it have been saying this is based on foundations of truth. I mean, the word truth comes out a lot. So I looked at it and thought, okay, I'm about to watch Steven Spielberg's closing argument. The man's 79 years old. He'll be 80 at Christmas time. He's done 30 alien movies or projects since Close Encounters. So I thought, this is probably the one where he lays out what he's got, no matter where he got it, whether it's from reading or talking to people or maybe being in approximation with government people or whatever. Whatever he's got, this is it. I didn't see that. I saw a movie with you, which was, by the way, a great thing. Very fun to see that together. But you know how movies, sometimes you watch them and then you need a day to sort of think about it. A day later after watching it, I thought this felt like a Marvel movie. This felt like the origin story for how our heroine gets her superpowers. Because a lot of the things that happen in this movie to the main character are things I've not actually heard being associated with abductions or anything like that.
Overall, I liked the entire premise of the movie, certainly, and I think you did as well, of showing the pressures that somebody who is going to disclose information goes under. It did go extreme with some of that, with showing some of that pressure, but you got that point in the movie, did you not?
Very much so. And the point Bryce makes there is that, this main character undergoes a transformation that doesn't seem plausible, I think, is what he's saying. It's not all that implausible either. People who have had direct personal contact with what they say are aliens and have had actual communication with them. Abduction, it used to be a terrifying experience, invasive medical procedures, but for the most part, that community of people who've had close encounters like that now see it as a positive experience. And there are some of them who develop certain abilities. It changed them in other ways, in terms of empathy and caring about the planet, for example. Something as simple as that, that's really happened. Now, it's a sci-fi movie, so the devices they use to move the story along and get to where all this stuff comes out may seem implausible, but it's a movie. It's not a documentary. It's not a PhD thesis. So, I think it works both as a movie and works as interesting a broader segment of the population in the idea of disclosure or at least greater transparency.
They use animals in the movie as presenting as aliens because people have had that experience.
Yeah, they have had that experience
you've talked to.
Where it's like a lot of people have reported deer, big-eyed deer, who then they realize that's a screen memory and that the little grays that made it look like that in your head, or owls, things of that sort. Like I can't explain how it happens. It's never happened to me, but that is a pretty common report among people who've had these close encounters. So using animals in this movie made absolute sense.
No, and that part, it takes you got to pay attention throughout this movie. First of all, it's not one you just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah.
It's one you got to think throughout. You got to pay attention and focus because there's so many subliminal messages and different things throughout the movie that you got to focus on.
And to tell you the truth, I'm still processing it, kind of. I think I need to see it again before I can issue a declaration of whether it's thumbs up or down.
Before you go popcorn boxes or whether it's 3 or 4.
I liked it. I'm going to see it again. I recommend that people see it. I think it's an important movie. It may not be Spielberg's best, but he's produced some pretty darn good movies over the years, so that's a tough standard to meet.
That is. He mentioned Saving Private Ryan in there at the top of that list, certainly, and a lot of people.
Schindler's List, Jaws. There's a couple of Indiana Jones
sort
movies
of good.
that also have aliens in them. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull goes out to Area 51, which is the secret place where all the goodies are stashed, and then they make some aliens that are really not very friendly.
Spielberg seems like he's doing what he wants to do late in his life.
Yeah,
is that what I'm seeing?
Shouldn't we all? Yeah, shouldn't we?
Shouldn't we all?
Kind of like your life, Ron,
I think, and yours likewise. All right, for George Knapp, I'm Ron Futrell. Thanks for joining us here on Mystery Wire. Thanks for watching, everybody.